This is my review of the new electric Mercedes Vito van. Could this really be the ultimate van for your business? Hello, welcome back to the interface. My name's Alex, and today we're going to look at the Mercedes eVito panel van. This has been recently updated for 2024 with some updated technology inside. I'll be honest, for the front design of the new Vito, not much has changed. It's a very minor nip and tuck in terms of design. We've got a different sort of design on the grille here, especially in the headlights as well. We have got multi-beam LED on this model as well. There is also a new old-fashioned script for the Mercedes logo in here, nice little Easter egg, but not much has changed on the front. It's mostly in the interior. One of the things that hasn't changed is the location of the front charging socket. It's still on the front left-hand corner of the van, which, I'll be honest, it seems like a really vulnerable location for the charging socket to be. Imagine if you're driving vans all day, every day, delivering stuff in different places, in different scenarios. This is probably one of the things that's going to get damaged the most often. And I'd imagine getting this mechanism replaced could be a little bit costly. So I would have thought that Mercedes would have chosen to put this in a different place, maybe at the back or maybe on this wing here. That would have been a little bit better. However, this is electronically openable, so it has got a release catch there. We do at least have a electronically openable sort of release valve here, which is really useful. You haven't got to faff around with locking and unlocking the doors, which is really good. And then we have got two spring opening buttons here with a little light inside too. What's quite nice is there's no bungs to get full of water or get damaged. These are just covers, which are quite nice. If you open up the top one, that's your AC charging. The bottom one is DC charging, and the eVito has the same sort of specs as the last version. 160 miles WLTP range, 80 kilowatt DC charging, so 10 to 80% in 35 minutes. That's if you're using a 400 volt charger. And then you do also have 11 kilowatt AC for overnight charging or just top up charging at the office. So that's a really good option. And this is a really nice sort of charging socket as well. In the back of the eVito, there is actually a decent amount of space. From factory, it has plywood on the sides with a pretty decent quality floor with lots of tie-down points. It also comes with dual sliding doors on either side. The load compartment on this L2 model is just under 3 meters in length and just under 2 meters in width. For the new Vito and eVito, Mercedes has definitely improved a lot of the pain points from the old version of this van. Namely, the biggest improvement I can see is the infotainment screen. This is now 10.25 inches and it has wireless Apple CarPlay as standard, and it's a lot more responsive to the touch, which is fantastic news. Also, the steering wheel has borrowed some of its design choices from Mercedes passenger vehicles. A little bit disappointing, we do have touch capacitive buttons for various controls like the volume and the cruise control. And if you think about the typical use of a van, like deliveries and sort of drop-offs, you are wearing gloves in the wintertime and these could get a little bit frustrating to use. However, the steering wheel does have a nice design and it is quite comfy. And on this one, it is thankfully heated with a control down here. Also, with the old version of the Vito, there was a foot-operated handbrake just down here. And that was a weird design choice, quite an old layover from old versions. Thankfully now, it is a lot more modern, and we do have an electronic handbrake down here. And like any electric vehicle and automatic vehicle, it does disable when you set off in drive or reverse. Elsewhere, most of the interior is practically the same as the old version. A lot of the heating controls are very similar to the Citan as well. We've got some driving mode buttons down here as well. We've got a 12 volt socket for charging devices and sort of like scanners and stuff. I've got two USB-C ports for your phone, and there is also a pad there to store your phone so it's not going to fly around everywhere. Good amount of practicality as well. We've got a nice storage bin up here, same down there as well. Got an okay sized cup holder. It does go quite just hold cups pretty well, even though it does look a bit small. We have got a good amount of storage in the door bins, a really good sized bottle holder as well, and a really deep pocket in there. And there's a nice armrest for the driver as well when you get a bit comfortable. Now, there is a weird thing in here. Because this is a converted combustion platform, there are some weird layovers which we'll see outside as well. But one of the ones is this, it's not really a transmission hump, it's probably for the gearbox, because in vans the engine sits a different orientation to cars, so the gearbox is going to be practically sat in the interior. It does impede on the foot room for the middle passenger here, but I'm not entirely sure how many van drivers will take two passengers with them. But if I just get over into this second seat here, it is a very weird driving or sitting position really. You can see here my leg is having to sit on this hump here, and it just can impede on the passenger room for the outer passenger there too, which is a little bit strange. However, while we do have a heated steering wheel on this one, we also do have heated seats, which is really good, especially on a winter's day. Not for the middle passenger, but for the outer passenger and the driver. For the driver as well, we do have a pretty good sort of cluster here. We've got 2 old-fashioned dials, which is very weird to see on a 2024 vehicle, especially an electric vehicle. And there is a pretty good middle display that gives you things like the speed, the efficiency, and all the various bits and pieces you need. The new Vito does have a 360-degree camera system, well, at least this one does as well. And that's one of the really big surprises about this vehicle. The 360-degree camera system is really, really crisp, really, really fast to respond, and it gives you a good amount of information. We even do have a model which you can sort of swipe around and get a good view on where you're backing up. Because obviously this one, you don't have a mirror, you don't have window to look through, so it's a really good addition, especially when reversing around in car parks. So for the interior of the new eVito, Mercedes have done a pretty good job, really. Driving the eVito is actually pretty good. Obviously this is an electric van, and it makes it feel a lot more refined and a lot more car-like than any other van that's powered by diesel or petrol. Obviously this is electric and we have a fair amount of power. It's not the most powerful thing in the world, and I am surprised about the lack of power as well. We only have 116 brake horsepower, and that doesn't feel like a lot in some scenarios. Now I do believe that Mercedes is targeting the city sort of use for this. Just based on the range alone and the charging speed alone, that's probably what the target market is for this, generally anyway, sort of shorter journeys. And do you really need anything more powerful than this? Now, I can imagine that this being loaded up with the rated amount of weight this can take, that it might feel even slower. But there are some different driver modes that hopefully will let you get a bit more power out. So down here I've got a nice big switch, so I can shove it into eco mode or comfort. So I'll put it in comfort mode. Let's see if it feels a bit more any more powerful. Yeah, definitely seems okay. There are different driver modes. There are comfort, eco, and then maximum range. Maximum range seems like it gives you about 1 mile more than eco. It just restricts the power a little bit too. Now, obviously, because this is electric, you haven't got that horrible noisy diesel engine clattering away. And if you are operating this as a business and you can charge at work or home, this is going to be really, really cheap to run. I'll put exactly how much it would cost on a 7p overnight tariff to fill up, but it's going to be a lot less than diesel would be anyway. So it's actually quite good. Now, if you haven't driven a van before with a bulkhead, the visibility is going to be a little bit of a problem for you. For me, I've driven quite a few vans, so it's not really that much of an issue, but obviously you have got the bulkhead, you haven't got any windows but the side of you to look out of, sort of out over your back shoulder. But the mirrors are a decent size. We've got a little blind spot section on them which is a bit curved, and thankfully the eVito does come with really good camera systems. The rear view camera and the 360 camera is really crisp and really easy to use and read and stuff, so it's actually quite good. So I don't think that's going to be a massive issue for you if you back it into car parks and stuff. And what's quite nice is this is a feature from cars. There's a top-down view as well. I haven't seen a van with that for quite a while. Now, because this is an electric van, we have got some EV-specific features, such as regen. There is actually 5 stages of regen on the eVito available. So there are some paddles on the steering wheel here. So we've got plus on the right-hand side and minus on the left-hand side. So minus will give us minus D, and that will give you a bit of regen. So it's actually quite good. Nearly 1 pedal. That's actually quite good, really. That will bring us to a stop completely. Look at that. That's actually quite good. If we click the plus pedal, we've got D++, and that will give you a lot more coasting, pretty much constant coasting. And then we can click minus and get D+, and then D, just normal D, and then D- gives you a bit more regen as well. It's actually quite a decent amount of regen, really, for a van. When we look at the efficiency on the eVito, Mercedes actually quote 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I've been seeing 1.9 to 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour, depending on temperature and depending on speed. For reference, the eVito does not have a heat pump, which is going to affect a few things, and also it is 6.5 degrees outside right now. So in terms of where vans and large SUVs lie, they're never the most efficient on electric, but they are going to be a lot cheaper to run than diesel or petrol as well. Now, lastly, I'm going to look at the comfort of the van. The noise that this is producing is very quiet compared to diesel vans. Obviously, if you're used to vans, they're very noisy and quite uncomfortable sometimes. But having driven quite a few electric vans already, they do make it a lot more pleasant to drive. It's a lot more comfy because the weight's very low down. There's no noise, well, there's a lot less noise than there would be in a diesel one. And they just seem less harsh in general and a lot more smooth and a lot easier to drive as well. Obviously with this one, the gear selector is on the column here, and you can flip around and reverse and stuff with just one finger here. You haven't got to mess around with a clutch. So it's a lot more comfy in that regard. So what's my overall verdict on the new 2024 Mercedes eVito van? Well, it's a nice little update to the eVito range. Got some updated styling, much improved interior technology. That screen's a lot better than it was before, but the range is still a little bit disappointing. The eVito still doesn't have a heat pump, which in cold temperatures like today, about 6-7 degrees, the range sort of does drop off a little bit quicker than you'd like it to. And the estimated range on the screen is way less than what Mercedes claim it to be. So a heat pump would be a really good addition to the eVito. Having said that, in use in London and different cities and drop-offs and things, the range on this is going to be perfectly fine. If you're driving to a job for hours on end and then driving off again, it's going to be fine. So I think for that sort of use case, it's going to be pretty adequate, really. There are other vans available, such as the e-Transit Custom, but also the ID Buzz Cargo, itself having the option of a heat pump, but also has much better range too, and much better charging speeds as well. I'd be interested to see what you think about the new eVito in the comments down below. I've been Alex, and I'll see you again next time.